So hopefully that clears all the questions that the community has about the announcement that we posted on Monday and the path forward and everything. But now we have Michael here. Michael, how are you, man?
Hey, doing great, Santi.
Great to have you on stage again, my friend. Uh, we'll give a couple, I would say one more minute and we can get started. But I was just saying that what we'll be doing is basically just going over probably some kind of recap at the beginning of the news that we posted on Monday. And then if you see the announcement that we posted, um, you will see that we linked to a channel called Questions for Monday. Sorry, Questions for Wednesday. So we will be pulling the questions from there and answering. Hopefully, we can answer as many as we can. But we'll be going through that today, basically. So just to cover all the questions that the community has, hopefully. So
Yeah, and Santi, I just want to jump in and say this is an extremely positive call. I don't want this to have a like negative overshadow whatsoever. There's a lot of optimism on the team, a lot of enthusiasm on the team. I'm more optimistic than I have been in a long time. And while it was certainly an extremely challenging decision to make reductions to the team to lose people, not a path I would have wanted to take, this is completely standard course of business to adjust for market conditions. All of the biggest
mhm,
tech companies out there in the world are making layoffs right now, the Googles and the Metas. They're laying off tens of thousands of people to adjust for market cycle. And that's all we're doing is we're adjusting for the market cycle and our sustainability going into the future. So I feel really good about this. I don't feel good about letting go of amazing, talented team members, but we are going to rebuild from this. We are going to grow from all of the ammunition, all of the tools that we have in our arsenal right now, and we're going to look to rehire all of the people that were let go, or at least many of them as we can. So this is not a bad thing, guys. We've been able to extend the runway out for 1 year plus, and the future is extremely bright. We just had a really incredible all hands team call, and we're amped. We're excited. I think we have so much on the horizon starting in August, which in many ways is unfortunate because a lot of the people that contributed to the stuff that we're about to release did get cut, but again, this is just a necessity of the business and gives us better opportunities going forward for growth.
absolutely, absolutely. So Michael, what do you think if we start? I think you kind of did it, but for the people who maybe didn't read the letter or the announcement, doing just a recap of what we announced on Monday before jumping into the questions.
Sure, there was a lot there. I mean, obviously we've made every attempt to be as transparent as possible with everybody in the community, and if we go back to November of last year, within a couple of days of us determining that we had funds lost on FTX, for example, I drafted up a statement for the public, so you all were aware of what was going on with the status of the company itself. Obviously, as core contributors, lead developers of Star Atlas, our ability to develop is very critical at the moment, despite the fact that I believe that the future of Star Atlas is UGC. It's people from all over the world being able to contribute, modify, extend, and develop their own versions, their own stories, their own aspects to Star Atlas. I really think of us as more of a platform than just a game. Now, at the center of our development platform and ecosystem, of course, is this really amazing product that's called Star Atlas, and that is the hook. The game is the attraction. That is what helps us build and deliver this idea of a new digital society, and it's all done so through a sophisticated economic simulation that allows for real labor markets to exist, real businesses to form, real opportunities to persist, things like play to earn. Um, but through the course of this year, we've been building. We did make some reductions back in December, going into January, to offset some of our expenses. Building something like this, like Star Atlas, is incredibly capital intensive. Um, I could cite examples like Star Citizen, for example, that's spending, based on our data, spending upwards of $8 million per month on their development team. Uh, we were spending a lot of money building a AAA product. An open world, expansive MMO is an incredibly capital intensive undertaking. Um, I don't want to get too far ahead on the questions, but just to say that I want everybody to be aware that our model from inception is the same as it is now. When we launched in January of 2021 with a white paper and a dream, we did not have the capital necessary to build out the full AAA product. It's always been about this iterative modular release where we create product and features, we roll those out, we start to grow, we attract users, we generate revenue, and we continuously reinvest revenue that we make to build out the long-term vision of the product. That's no different today as it was in January of 2021. And yes, we had phenomenal success in 2021 that allowed us to rapidly scale up our team to a level we never would have anticipated. Just to be clear, we never expected making 170 uh, almost $200 million over the course of a year and a half. Like that is phenomenal success. That is top 1% of any businesses all over the world that have ever achieved success like that. We scaled our team to be commensurate with the amount of revenue that we generated. And yes, we had the kind of disconnection of significantly decreasing values in our treasury, which I've outlined previously, but that includes things like minus $65 million on Atlas balances that we held in treasury because we did not want to go out and sell that into the community while we were still building the initial feature sets of the game. Things like a substantial tax liability that wasn't completely anticipated. Of course, we know we have to pay taxes, but it was a $30 million tax bill in 2021, higher than I expected. We lost $15 million on FTX. And collectively across these things, we're talking about a swing of $110 million in our balance sheet when we had scaled anticipating access or the use of those funds. So we need to make some adjustments now. That's what we're doing for business viability. And earlier this week, we announced that we have reduced the team. We eliminated 122 positions. We still have a core team of it's 45 on paper, but we really have closer to 55 people internal to Automata, excluding co-creation studios that are still on the team and working with us in some capacity, whether that's on payroll or through some updated contractual relationship that we have with them that allows them to continue working on the product. So um, it was a deep cut. It was hard. It was a very hard decision to make, but again, it positions us quite well for sustainability going forward. And what's really positive here is we do have a ton of ammunition, ton of fuel in the tank, and I'm extremely excited about the things that we'll have coming up for release in August.
Absolutely. I think that was a great recap, Michael. And yeah, we are here. We will keep building. Yeah. I think now we can hop to the questions, Michael, unless you have anything else to add there.
Oh, it was an extensive intro, so I think let's jump into the questions here.
Yeah, no, as always, it's a it was a great summary of everything that happened, which was a lot. So yeah, thank you as always. But let's get started again. Like we pulled some questions. We did this yesterday, so the most recent ones we probably didn't get the chance to read them. But we pulled the questions from the questions for Wednesday chat, and we'll be covering them now. So first question is: will Danny and Jacob remain on board? Are their roles affected?
Yes, 100%. They're remaining on board. Jacob, Danny, and myself are ride or die, taking this thing all the way to the end. And again, I don't want to put a negative light on this whatsoever, but even if every other opportunity in front of us, which is a vast amount of opportunities, failed, Jacob, Danny, and myself would still be here driving this vision, trying to make it work. There's just way too many opportunities for us to fail, in my opinion. But again, even in the absolute worst case scenario, we're still driving this forward and finding a way to make this work. So no impact to their roles. They're still in their same positions. What we have done is all taken a reduction in salary. Myself going down to absolute minimum wage, which I think is justifiable given the position of the company. But all of the leadership has taken reduction in salaries, and we're fully committed just to making this work.
Yeah, awesome. Then, if sufficient funding arrives in the future, is there still the intent to create the originally envisioned metaverse? Question from Funcracker.
Yeah, it's a great question. I kind of addressed this in my opening statement, but once again, our vision has not changed. You'll recall January 2021, we outlined a white paper of all of the things that we wanted to accomplish. Nothing has changed with that vision. Nothing has changed with our ambitions. It's how do we get from the point where we're at now to that ultimate endpoint. Um, we happen to have enormous success, unexpected success through 2021. We will see that level of success again, and even at greater levels, in my opinion. But we're working through the process that allows us to ship those features and ship those products that attract people. Like at the end of the day, if we as a business and a company don't create a product that is attractive for people to play, then it would have been a failure regardless. Now, that's not what we build for. That's not where our passion lies. That's not how we think this is going to go. And if historical success is any indication of future potential, then I think the writing is on the wall. It's pretty obvious that we will be able to succeed with the products that we're rolling out as we roll those out. And so it's about leveraging the capital and the revenue that we're able to generate off of every feature and every product that we release and reinvest that. It's always been a game of how do we reinvest capital that we've earned into building the long-term vision. So cannot state emphatically enough, we're still building the Unreal Engine product to this day. That hasn't stopped, by the way. We still have a team there. We're still building for that. And everything that we do in between is about getting us from where we are now to that ultimate end vision.
Awesome. Yeah, let's continue here. Question from Scotty the Engineer. What is the expected timeline for Sage now?
Yeah, well, and speaking of which, Jacob and Danny are joining us. Are they in the audience or are they joining later? Sorry, I didn't get a chance to connect
I'm
with you on
checking
that
the
Sanjay
audience.
before we started here.
Yeah, I'm checking in the audience. I don't know if I can see them. If they are open to hop on stage if we see them.
Okay,
Yeah,
Danny.
I'm here. Yeah,
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Danny.
not sure if Jacob is yet. Hey, all.
Okay, yeah, like I said, guys, we did just wrap up an extensive internal all hands call, so I'm sure a few things just winding down. Jacob, welcome. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, so just jumping into the next question, it is what is the expected timeline for Sage? I think it's probably an appropriate time to talk a little bit about what the next rollout is going to look like. Sage Labs, I'm happy to open there, and then maybe Jacob, you can elaborate a little bit on the feature set. Um,
Mhm.
so, guys, we hate to give dates because we're always held accountable to dates, even if they are estimates for us or targets for us. But, uh, given the nature of this conversation, I'll say we are looking to roll out what we're calling Sage Labs within the next 3 weeks. And Sage Labs is an internal tool that our team built for for us to do all of the play testing before we roll out the actual Sage product environment. It is all of the programs and all of the gameplay mechanics that are being executed within Sage. So that's your fleet management, it's your inventory management, it's movement, it's extraction, it's crafting systems, it's reward tables. It's everything except for combat, which was never part of the resource extraction and crafting loop that was coming out. It's all of those mechanics delivered on mainnet with the real economic simulation, the real economic environment that everybody is wildly anticipating. And so the difference with Sage Labs and Sage Rec, or what we're calling Starbase now, is the user interface. And so this is going to be a more simplified user interface. It is a 2D environment. It's probably more akin to that O game concept that we've talked about, all the way back in 2021. But again, all of the real mechanics on mainnet with real economic outcomes delivered to you guys, and we're looking to do that within 3 weeks.
Great.
Uh, I do want to add maybe one or two more points here, and then maybe turn it over to Jacob to elaborate on anything that I might have overlooked there. But you guys saw me make a post on on Twitter about Star Atlas is going to be running one of the biggest promos of all time. When I said that, I was referring specifically to the Sage Labs release. What we're looking at doing is rolling out a $1.5 million promo event that will include asset distribution for participation in Sage Labs. So again, the cool thing here is it's all the ships that you own that allow you to participate. Anybody who wants to come into this promotion will need to buy and own ships to be able to participate in that environment. But it's essentially $150,000 worth of assets, worth of loot, worth of Atlas being distributed on a weekly basis through a combination of loot redemption based on crafting tables and components that you craft yourself, and then combine all of those together and redeem for an item, or it's entering into a form of a raffle system. And I'm probably sharing too much here, which I tend to do, but we're calling these golden tickets, and golden tickets will be a craftable item in Sage Labs. And on a weekly basis, you can enter into these drawings. We've got all of these promotions kind of put together of how we're going to roll that out, how we're going to do the drawings live, how it's all provably fair. But effectively, your golden tickets give you access to the weekly drawing, and we'll have great loot in there, $150,000 worth of loot on a weekly basis. So I think that's probably mostly everything I want to cover. Jacob, anything you want to add to that?
Just highlighting that there's been a ton of work that's going into what you're going to see. And also how we want to frame this release is important. Understanding that it's not going to be that sort of previewed gameplay experience that we put out there. What you saw in Escape Velocity was, isometric, warping your ship around. Like that environment is the star-based release. The Sage Lab is sort of a back-end test, right? It's a very simplified UI. We have been using this as an internal testing tool, but it handles all the loops, every bit of functionality that you would see coming into Sage Rec or Starbase is going to be there, and it's super cool, right? Like Sage has mining and crafting, um, and you'd be able to figure out theory craft around supply chains and logistics and understand the crafting tree really well. Um, Using your ships in much more interesting ways is going to be, I think, a lot of fun, even in a simplified UI. So I'm pretty excited about this. It's been a year plus in the making of getting the Sage programs onto mainnet, and it's happening with this release. So I really couldn't be happier. Um, and there is also like legitimately a lot of stuff we want to test, right? There's Starcom, there's just the on-chain program functionality we want to really, while it's been heavily audited at this point, had a very thorough security audit. There's just a lot of different use cases I'm sure we'll see come out of the woodwork when a lot more people are uh, messing around with it. So um, one other point I want to throw out there is we'll probably, and not on the initial release. I think there's some further work to be taken care of here, but um, releasing the dev tools along with it, which means all the TypeScript modules um, to be able to interact with the programs directly. Those will be open source, and we've seen a lot of awesome community software development around the relatively rudimentary on-chain programs that we have out there. Um, there's a lot of depth with this Sage program suite. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of creative software being built by the community. So getting the same tools that we build with internally into the community's hands, I think is going to lead to some uh, uh, interesting output there, either just analytics tools or in creative ways to interact with Sage. Maybe some interesting renditions of just like a galactic map or something to get some interesting insights there. Um, so yeah, coming soon. uh, it could change. It's going to change a lot for sure. Not exactly sure what to expect on the other side of Sage being on mainnet, but it's going to change a lot. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, great clarification there, Jacob. There's been a bunch of questions. We have a ton of questions to get through here, but there's been a few that have come through chat. So just wanted to confirm one, there was a question around R4. Yes, R4 is one of the craftable outputs. There's, I think we discussed this already, but there's 8 base materials that you're going to be able to extract from asteroids in this release. Those will go into crafting of something like 26 or 28 different items. R4 being one of those. This again feeds into that R4 economy that we transitioned over to the player base towards the end of escape velocity. So that's one of the things you can craft. There's a bunch of components you can craft. There's these golden tickets you can craft. There's a lot of ways you can monetize this. You can make R4 and sell that to other players. You're going to be consuming R4 during Sage. There are Atlas syncs baked into all of this, into all of the crafting processes, into movement. You're consuming resources. So again, this is really the next extension and a substantial extension to the economic gameplay. The question of like, well, why are we doing this and not releasing the Sage UI is because when we think about the features that are most attractive to our existing audience, and I do a lot of thinking on this about our market segmentation and the traditional gamers versus the traders and the speculators out there, and the play to earn community that cares about being able to monetize their time in a game. Well, the most immediately available feature set and the most immediately available audience is that of the play to earn. And in fact, our greatest success as a company was all the way back in December of 2021 with the release of Faction Fleet, which was obviously not a complete game in any way. But through this enlistment process, giving people the opportunity to earn and benefit from the ecosystem was really attractive. And so I also just want to clarify the front end. Jacob, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the front end is completely done. The back end is completely done. And what we need to do now is connect these systems through Starcom, the middleware layer that we've developed internally. That is, I'll give one more date. We are expecting that to take between 2 and 3 months to complete. There's a question that I'm going to pose for the community on this, maybe not right now, but maybe towards the end of the call. But that middle layer connection we think will take 2 or 3 months. And so given we have the economic simulation prepared, why not roll that out to everybody and get people earning? I think that's a great way for us to grow the community. And I just want to note that I've also already had multiple conversations with different guilds, DACs as we call them, but guilds out there. And there's excitement from those teams to start to actually engage in Star Atlas when they never have before, because we're giving them a feature that is attractive to them, and that is play to earn. So that's why we're rolling out Sage Labs now. We have the back end done. We have the mainnet programs ready. We've released the economy. Let's get that into your hands and give you something to play with. It's the full game minus the UI, and we'll give you the UI in a couple of months.
Also full for this feature set because there's understanding the full Sage intended gameplay is going to include territory control and combat. That's where I think things really shake up, right? When people are fighting over certain star systems for their faction to control, be it for controlling the supply of rare raw materials or whatnot. It's combat is going to tie a lot of the economic aspects of the ecosystem together. So that won't be in these initial releases, but that's our feature set for V0 of Sage, and we'll continue to update the programs and include those features as time goes on. But this is a really great place to start. It's not going to feel very dangerous flying around anywhere in the star system, but again, it's mostly crafting, supply chains, logistics, stuff like that you'll be doing here, and a really good demonstration of this architecture, newfound type of MMO architecture. But yeah, when combat gets out there and factions are really incentivized to compete against each other, it's gonna be very interesting. So keep that in mind as you're sort of getting into these initial Sage releases.
Yeah, I actually will ask the question now, Jacob, just since you brought up combat. Part of our team call today, well, the whole call was about prioritization and focus. Smaller team, right? So we do want to make sure that we're able to deploy all of our resources appropriately across the company and get these products released to you guys so you have something to interact with. What we are debating internally right now is whether or not we spend some time after the Sage Labs release to focus either on the mobile companion app or on the UI integration. So, what we've called Rec, now Star-based. I will share some thoughts with you guys, but Santi and Dom are going to help. They're going to post a poll on this so we can get some feedback. I already see UI coming through, so maybe that it's pretty overwhelmingly UI. Okay, I think we've got the answer, guys. So
We'll post
how?
it. We'll post it anyways, Michael, on minor announcements. I think Dome is cooking that.
Okay.
But yeah, I see the chat already. But just to make sure,
Yeah. It is pretty overwhelming. I just want to share one thought with you guys. So, everyone in the community cares about growth. There's another question later in this, I think, that has to do with how do we plan to grow. I just want you guys to be aware that the mobile app is, to me, an enormous opportunity to grow the user base through this, mobile entry point into the Star Atlas ecosystem. In fact, those users are all integrated into the economy because they're leveling up crew members. They're able to trade and sell those crew members after the mint. From a company perspective, it actually gives us an opportunity to generate revenue off of a new asset class, which is obviously beneficial for things like Runway. So I'm not fully committed on going the mobile route. If what you guys want is the UI layer with Rec, we can do that. But the alternative would be, and this is how we'll pose the survey, but we could move from Sage Labs to mobile, and then on the rec release, we would include combat. So it would actually be all of the existing games or existing mechanics, but include combat in with the UI layer. So that's the choice you have to make. Do you want Sage rec as the next release without combat, or do you want mobile first and then Sage including combat? So we'll drop that survey. We'll take your feedback and we'll build what you guys want to see.
well, we just posted it on minor announcements for people to be able to go and vote.
I think one small point is the Sage Labs is not zero UI. It's just not the pretty UI that we see in the play canvas stuff. So
Good point.
It's not just a command line or something like that. So
Right.
And I don't know, to what extent the developer art is coming along, but I think the guys are doing it, trying to have fun with the UI too. So yeah, it's 2D, but it should be a cool interface nevertheless.
Cool.
Can we share images of Sage Labs UI? I'd be open to sharing it. Jacob, I don't know if you want to connect with anyone on the team. I don't know if we have anything that's ready to be shared right now, given we're still a couple weeks out just from rolling it out. But
A
if we
screenshot of that first page with the ASCII art that says "Welcome to Sage" that tells the full story. So
let's drop it. Let's drop it. Let's give the people what they want.
that's enough. We will do one small design pass, very small, before it's out though. Just heads up.
Okay. All right. So as in all things, rule caveat, this is not the final release, but we're going to share something with you so you get a sense of what it is and expect some minor improvements to this before we go live.
Cool. Should we continue with some questions in the meantime while we get the
Yes.
picture?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So next question from Benny is, what's the composition of the 45 people left?
Yeah, good question. And again, this is where I'll emphasize that by no means did we eliminate the Unreal Engine team and the work that we're doing on Showroom and the 2.2 release. Like I said, it's really a bit more than 45. 45 officially are on payroll, but we have some other arrangements in place with people. But we have 19 that are focused on game system design. This is for both Unreal Engine 5 product and Sage. This also includes things like the art production. And I do want to point out that we were able to retain all of the art directors, which were always internal. Danny, I don't know if there's anything actually you want to comment on here. This is really your domain, but all of the art directors that were driving decision making around the game product itself, in Unreal Engine 5, we still have all of those. That's environment and characters, it's ships, it's tech art.
Yeah, that's correct. The core team that can get everything over the finish line is still intact, and that's the important point about this restructuring is that, and this happens in most companies anyway. You get a lot of vendors and contractors to build out a lot of the heavy stuff. The timing actually works out very well where we have so much content right now that we can get a much smaller team to just push that over the home stretch and get over the finish line. And then in hopes that, that attracts a lot of people and we're able to rehire. But I can go into the product, like what's actually going to be in the product later. But yeah, as far as the team, it's still intact.
Perfect. Okay, so 19 on, as I said, on game system design and game development. We have another 19 people that are in engineering. We've kept, let me see, 7 people in blockchain. This is one of the departments that probably saw the least amount of cuts because, hey, we're building a product that lives entirely on chain. We need experts in that on-chain development domain. So 19 in engineering, but the rest of those are in both web development and infrastructure. Jacob, again, happy to hear your thoughts if there's anything you want to extend that out to.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I was just describing the engineering department, 19, 7 of those still in blockchain. The rest are web development and infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah, that covers it. We do have some specialized roles for the web game development, which is using those web-based game engines like Play Canvas. So, but yeah, that covers the basis for all of our product goals still, and we're chugging on very, very efficiently. Yeah.
Yeah, Kanu, I'm seeing your comment. We do have developers in Unreal Engine. That's part of the 19, and this whole list excludes any of the co-creation studios that we do still have relationships with. I know there's a question later on that, so we'll address it more there. I wanted to highlight here econ. Uh, Economics is so important in the product that we're developing. It's really what allows for this opportunity to exist. The things like play to earn. It's where I see the biggest advantages of building in Web3 as in econ. So we still have Chris as our head of game economy, and we also retained Gareth. So we have 2 people. Gareth is an analyst. Chris is the head of game economy. These guys are going to be able to contribute most directly to the game economic system design, which is really the things that we're rolling out now. We'll still be able to deliver the quarterly. Stephen was an amazing contributor to that, as was Eric, doing an amazing job of helping to lead and manage that department. And Anurag was another analyst that we did unfortunately lose, but we'll be able to keep up with the quarterly. And we have the specialists in place for the game economic design and architecture. So 2 there, and then we have another 13 people across the team. This includes pretty much every other department. It's community, it's marketing, it's communications, it's growth and business development, it's our business intelligence unit, and then corporate. So legal, finance, ops, and HR.
Cool. And on the econ front, I see Chris posted in the economics chat. If you have any questions about Sage Labs economy, shoot them there. So he offered himself for that. So we'll send people over to him. So yeah, in the econ chat, in the economics, I think
Chris
Chris
is
is
trying to
there.
he's trying to steal the spotlight, man. Like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
needs to be paying attention here. But feel free to ask him some questions.
yeah, absolutely. Should we go to the next one, or did we?
I think we've covered the team composition. Again, heavy emphasis on engineering and game development. We're building a gaming product. That's where most of our retained resources are, and I feel really good about the team that we have in place to continue pushing this forward.
Cool. So next question is, what's the plan to secure funding for future development of the UE5 game?
Uh, Again, this is essentially what I answered in the opening statement. So just to restate, our plan from inception was always to build and release product that generates revenue and grows our user base. It's why we launched uh, the Rebirth campaign in April of 2021. We did not have the hundreds of millions of dollars that are necessary for a AAA open world game production. Then we didn't have it at any point in the history of the company. It was always reliant on us being able to generate revenue to continue to reinvest in development. But if there's one thing I will share, it's that there is a demonstrated history that for whatever people say about Star Citizen, given the extended timeline in its own development, there is a history of being able to sell digital assets, in their case non-NFTs, sell digital assets to fund the development of an expansive vision like ours. And so that is that it was the goal, that is the goal today. And our hopes are certain, with no assurances. Our hopes are that as we roll out Sage, as we roll out mobile, we continue development in Unreal Engine 5, and in the years that it will take for us to complete that, which we've always talked about, a very long development timeline here. In the years that it takes for us to complete that, we bring the full vision to life.
Cool. Awesome. Next question. What does our current runway look like from Notcats?
Yep. I mean, we addressed this in the statement that I made earlier this week, but through these reductions, we were able to extend our runway out to 1 year plus. We did include very conservative revenue estimates in that runway. I I think that we are presenting a conservative number for you as well. It excludes it excludes like revenue growth in any way. It excludes new asset releases like crew members, for example, like a PFP. Should we pursue that avenue? It excludes additional ship sales as the economy gets activated. It also excludes any potential for raising capital externally through either venture capital or private investment that could come into us. So this is the most conservative number that we could provide to you, but it takes us out another year where we are today. I think, and by the way, with the current burn rate, it is far more achievable for us to be net neutral or positive. So we're actually making profit every month that, again, we can then use to scale going into the future, scale back up. But I feel really good about having a year ahead of us to keep building, especially with everything we're about to release.
Awesome. Yeah. Next question. What version of Sage does the new runway get us to? From Hollywood Spider.
So this one it's kind of difficult to answer without, there's a lot of unknown unknowns that I can't necessarily project right now. These are things that we discover through the development process. It's, like why is Sage taking as long as it's taking? Well, there's a lot of complexity in the systems that we're building. So I can't say with certainty, but based on the information that we do have, the status of Sage Labs, and Rec and Combat moving forward, I think I could assuredly say we are going to get to the V0 of Sage within that 1 year that I just outlined. I think it's very possible, depending on how we allocate resources and where the community demand lies, that we have a more substantial feature set available in that timeline. But um, I, this is me speculating, so clear caveat. But I think we have more than a year. I think once we start rolling these things out and revenue starts coming in, it's we essentially get to that point of perpetual runway again. So it's hard to contextualize it in a discrete moment in time, which is looking at it just from the perspective of today, because everything is dynamic. Revenue changes, our expenses can change. We can always make modifications and operate as we need to ensure that we continue developing and bringing stuff out.
Great. Great. I like how we're moving fast through the questions. I love it. Do you need a sip of water, Michael? As always, I have to ask that question, no
I
matter what.
have I have my water bottle here. Hopefully I'm not I'm trying to answer these thoroughly. but also trying to move quickly here because we have quite a few more questions on the list.
Yeah, we have a couple more for sure. So yeah, let's keep moving then. Another question from Notcats. Are we still working with any co-development studios? To what capacity?
We are, and this is a question again might defer to Danny, but I can tell you, we still have relationships with some of the primary studios. Verisoft and Vertpaint in particular are names that I think the community is pretty familiar with, so wanted to share those names. But the real benefit to these external vendors that we work with is that we have this ability to scale up and scale down. And so we maintain great relationships with them. I do want to make sure it's clear that we've satisfied and will continue to satisfy any financial obligations or liabilities that we have to them. So we're maintaining a great working relationship, and when the time presents itself and the opportunity presents itself, we can scale back up with them in the future. Danny, any comments on that one?
Sorry, chat kind of pulled me in. What was the question?
Just on the co-creation studios, I mentioned
Oh,
Vertpaint
yeah.
and Squaresoft still retaining some people there. But
Yeah, yeah, that's something that was kind of left out of the numbers, but we had to kind of do this reshuffle quickly, and each vendor has their own arrangement, and that doesn't cleanly line up with the necessary reshuffle. So those are still in conversation right now, but it actually puts us close to, just on the Unreal side with vendors, closer to like 40 total working on Unreal still. So we'll see how that shakes out. It could be more, could be less. Anyway, it's still a very strong team at the moment.
Cool. Okay, we keep moving. Question from Perry Hope. Did we reach out to the Solana Foundation?
of course we did. Yeah, I mean we have great relationships. So there's three organizations like that Solana consists of. It's Solana Labs, it's Solana Foundation, and Solana Ventures. Each of those have different purview and operational mandates, but we have open lines of communication with them. We have regular calls with the different groups. Solana Gaming sitting within the Solana Foundation organizational unit. Obviously, we just presented at PlayGG. That was a full open invite. We didn't pay for anything to go there. There's no sponsorship requirements. It was just an opportunity for us to present ourselves. So we've also spoken with the labs team directly, as well as ventures, about making some type of capital investment into Automata. Those conversations are ongoing. I don't know that anything is going to go through, but we're optimistic once again. And I think the key item to identify here is, why hasn't Solana come in and supported us already? There's a couple of things here. One, the Solana ecosystem overall was heavily impacted by FTX. All projects were struggling post November of 2022. And so there's a lot of requests, a lot of demands on the foundation to step in and provide some support. And at the end of the day, they're not really an investment entity. They are running a decentralized protocol, and they have their own capital requirements in their operations. So they can't go around distributing capital to everyone, especially when a lot of people are making requests. Their ventures team, it specifically invest in early stage seed rounds. Their typical check size is less than $100,000. And then the final part here, which again I commented on a bit yesterday in economics, but we are a capital intensive business. They're not really in a position to write a $20 million check to support a AAA game studio. It's just way outside of their investment mandate. So what I will say though is through this restructuring and with the reduced recurring burn, it makes us more attractive not only to someone like Solana, where they know that their dollar is going to go longer, which means more opportunity for us to deliver the product that grows the user base and generates revenue. But it also makes us more attractive to other venture capital groups that are similarly analyzing our business from the perspective of, what does a $20 million check get us? And if it buys 9 months worth of time of runway, are we throwing that money away? Are they going to get a hit in 9 months, or is that money just going to be burned through? And so now, if we raise $10 million or $20 million as a company, and that buys us 2 or 3 years, well, the risk profile has changed dramatically. So I'm not offering any assurances here that we're going to close on any capital, but just sharing out loud with you the thoughts around the risks that are being analyzed from the groups that we've spoken to.
Great, great answer. Let's keep moving. Another question. Has the vision of governance and the role for policyholders changed? And if so, how? Can you expand on how being a policyholder will integrate into the Sage and mobile app products? Specifically, what is the fate of PIP1?
Well, so the vision hasn't changed. Same thing with every other product in our development roadmap. The goal is still to achieve greater levels of decentralization, of DAO asset ownership, of governance rights, as we've outlined historically. The through the transition though, and thinking about prioritizing what gets developed first, we have had to make the difficult decision of deprioritizing future DAO development. Now, where we're at today is we have a stable build, we have the PIP process, we have the discourse integration so communications can take place. What we don't have that makes this really feature complete, at least near term feature complete, is the voting mechanism, the on-chain voting mechanism. So um, nevertheless, that voting mechanism is going to have to come at some later date, and some of this is going to be contingent on success that we encounter through game product releases. Our perspective is getting the game products out is more important than getting the governance out right now. If we don't have the game, there's nothing really to govern anyway, and so we just simply have to prioritize that. Let's see, what was the
Then the other question was how being a policyholder will integrate into Sage and mobile app products specifically.
Yes. So Polis is intended to be part of the political strategy gameplay loop. Those were always coming later. We don't have any immediate plans in the Sage releases to add the governance structure in game. I think to some extent with the DAC platform, as that rolls out, we'll probably see some Polis integration there. I'm a bit ahead of myself on that because it's also not in the DAC platform roadmap to include Polis, but essentially allowing this Panaculum DAO level governance to pass down through into the game so that you have the ecosystem-wide governance rights, making determinations about things like feature releases or use of the treasury assets in the DAO, but also to some extent being able to manage and control and dominate specific territories of space, be able to define things like taxation rates in a region, being able to utilize those sub DAO, whether it's at the faction level or regional level, use the resources collected there through taxation to employ, say, security services defending the territory with NPCs, stuff like that. So those are things that are coming. They're not in our immediate roadmap. It will be sometime. I don't know that we would even add Polis to Sage over the course of next year. I really don't know, but those are all things that were later in the roadmap. And once again, just going to defer to Danny really quickly on the on the Unreal product roadmap. When did we add the political strategy? I want to say that was like season 7 or 8 or something pretty late, but
Yeah, it's season 8. Yeah, let me check. I can double check. But,
okay. Yeah, season 8. Jose's confirming. So it was always a later feature release, but keep in
correct.
mind, you still have the locking mechanism, and with respect to the final question, PIP1, we still very much want to see that go through the process. The challenge right now with PIP1, given we don't have the on-chain voting mechanism in place, we can take it all the way up to the finish line, which means we will still hold a debate. In fact, I think the PIP1 process would take months, regardless, for us to even get to the point where we can officially vote on it, simply because a lot of discussion needs to take place. There's been a lot of communication, not only on the Govern app, but also in Discord about changes that people would like to see. Gladiator, I see him commenting out there. He has a bunch of he has his own proposal of how he thinks things should work. And that is the entire purpose of the governance app, is to allow you to submit your proposals on things that you would like to see change in. And so what we've proposed is a general framework, a general constitution, and a process. that we think would work for active governance. But if through your feedback we decide, or it is determined collectively across the community that something needs to change, well, all of that needs to come to fruition through those discussions, changes, updates, new debate, new discussion on those changes, and ultimately when we arrive at consensus on the right official proposal, only then does it actually go to vote. And even then, it could be voted down, based on PVP, polis voting power. So this, in every instance, was going to be a months-long process at a minimum, in my opinion. We can continue that process with a discussion, and it's not inconceivable that by the time we get through all of that, we are able to add polis or the voting mechanism back into our priority set and have voting available when we're actually ready to vote on this.
All right. Let's keep moving then. Next question. What is the revenue generation strategy with the mobile app? Is there anything else besides marketplace fees from trading crew members?
Yeah, I don't know that so we obviously just announced this at PlayGG and I didn't really go into extensive detail in that presentation, but the Crew mobile app is this fitness trainer, as you guys know. It is you can call it move to earn. In our case, it's not Atlas earnings. It's actually move to progress. So you're leveling up crew members as you participate in physical activities like walking, running, or cycling. The specific narrative around this is that it is participating in the racing career path, or the racing career mode. Well, as you know, our focus for the Unreal product, especially in 2.2, is competitive combat ground racing or hover racing. And so train your character, get them physically fit so that they can perform better when they enter into those races. This is how we were tying it all together. You have a racing career crew member. If you level them up, then you can have a slight competitive edge when you're racing in ground racing, which is why I think it's actually something that I really do want people to consider if we build this out in lieu of focusing our attention on the rec UI deliverable, because these elevated crew members directly lead to performance in the showroom product. But so how do we monetize it is there's a couple of different entry points for users. One of them is a free to play, which I think allows for massive organic growth. If we look at Steppen, for example, with over 1 million daily active users, well, the reality is across Star Atlas right now, we have about 6,000 daily active users. So we went from 6,000 daily actives to 1 million, whether they're participating collectively throughout every product we have to offer or not, there will be some pass-through effect and impact on all assets, because 1 million people that are playing with a crew member might go in and buy a ship, or might buy some land, or might buy a claim stake, right? So it's very supportive of the market structure. But the key point is they can actually get access to that free to play as a starting point, which means there's no financial requirement to get involved. Now that free to play crew member that they're using also cannot participate in the ecosystem, right? Like they can't use a free to play crew member on their ship in showroom or in Sage. But if they decide that they've made sufficient progress and they want to mint that item, then they can mint it. And we're still determining the price structure around crew members themselves. All of you out there that own ships today, you already have some crew members. They're embedded in your ship for now, but there will be a snapshot at some point where we actually distribute those out to you. But free to play lets them go in and start leveling it up. They can mint if they decide to. That's revenue for us. And where outside of them utilizing the crew members themselves, I think a healthy market could form around people who only care about leveling crew members, with the intention of selling that to other people who don't want to go through this process of leveling. It's a convenience fee. And this is where I've talked a lot about the idea of developing a sustainable economy requires balance in the producers and the consumers. Now, there are gamers out there who will be happy to pay, a $10 or $20 premium to get a crew member who's already leveled up, because it's a shortcut to a leveled character, right? And if they're willing to pay $20 and somebody else is willing to go and do the work of physical exercise, Well, we match those two people together through the marketplace, and now the mint cost might be $10 and the crew member's worth 20, so they immediately mint their crew member because they know they can sell it for 20 and make a profit for themselves. So anyway, that was a pretty extensive answer, but it
Yeah.
is largely, the revenue is largely based on crew minting, but there's also charms and mods and character enhancements that you can earn while you're out walking around. So I think the mobile really is a huge opportunity. Top of funnel, bring in new people to the ecosystem. It actually benefits every aspect of the ecosystem. So when you're responding to that survey, you can tell I'm a little bit biased, but when you're responding to that survey, I hope you guys are able to contextualize this information in the decision that we have to make. Huge user growth, new people into the ecosystem that benefits the whole economy versus adding the user interface, which also might bring in a whole new subset of gamers, by the way. It's just very difficult to say in advance which of those is going to be more effective at helping us grow.
Great. I'm posting the link again to the survey, so in case people want to go and vote. But yeah. I hope everyone was taking notes there because that was a lot of information right there.
I assume we're recording this too, right? Somebody is.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I hope though. Like I'm sure the hologram is on it for sure. Star Atlas TV, Afia. They're probably recording it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great.
I think we have one more question. What needs to happen before we scale back into UE5 AAA development with priority? Is it only money? And if so, how much? If not, what else needs to take place? Will we scale into UE5 development any differently than before? Those were
Yeah.
a lot of questions, so I'll let me know
Yeah.
if you need me to repeat them.
I'll try to take them in order. Just take an opportunity to reiterate, we're still building Unreal Engine 5. That's not stopped. We have a lot of effort going into the 2.2 product, and I don't know if we want to share any timelines on that, Danny, but I know well, I'll just share it. But we're still hopeful that there's a path to deliver the product before the end of the year, in Q4. Not sure if we're going to be able to do that with the team size that we have remaining, but that's an internal goal that we have for ourselves. But we're still building that. Now, in terms of what would it take to scale the teams back up, certainly it would take either revenue or investment, and probably anything exceeding $10 million in revenue or investment would give us some comfort around scaling back up. Uh, Even that is it doesn't sound, or it might sound like a lot. It's actually not a lot of revenue. If I refer back to December of 2021, we did $80 million in revenue over the course of a month, and that was associated with Faction Fleet. So the tides of fortune could turn very quickly in the market or industry segment that we operate in, this Web3 gaming space. But 10 million would give us some comfort to start to scale back up. I actually think that's a fairly attainable revenue target. I think we could do that probably pretty easily this year, especially with some of the product releases. Don't know yet, but I think it's possible. Once we start to exceed 20 or 30 million between revenue and or investment, then we can get more aggressive. I think my goal with the company is really to ensure that we never have less than 2 years of runway with our with current expenditures. That's a comfortable position to be in, 2 years plus. If we go out farther than that, then we're probably not investing capital efficiently enough to make sure that we're building in a timely fashion. But I want to see us get to that 2-year runway mark. Then excess capital is what I'll call it. We would start to look at investing into team scaling so that we can build faster.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think you covered everything, or are we missing any of those last questions? I know
Oh,
there
the
were a
question
few.
was the last one was, would we scale into UE5 development any
Yeah, will we
differently?
scale differently? Yes.
Sort of, yes. So again, I touched on this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but um, when so we built our team, a AAA team, based on $200 million in revenue. Now, over the course of 2022, between depreciation in Atlas values, $65 million, having our tax liability of $30 million, of losing $15 million on FTX. Well, we went from $200 million in our treasury down to $90 million in our treasury. And in fact, we had been spending a substantial amount because we built a team of 235 people. It's a large team, it's very capital intensive. So, given this massive swing, though, of course, we weren't fully prepared for this year, and the tail end of 2022, because it was a dramatic change in the balance sheet. And so, could I have made, or could we have made more immediate adjustments this year? The answer is yes. We could have cut more of the team earlier in the year. We could have cut a substantial amount of the team in December of last year. I did not want to do that. Not only did I see opportunity on the table in the form of investment, which we did outline. We had two term sheets, one signed in December, one signed in January, that were very promising. Those were in the tens of millions of dollars had we closed those. Now, those did not close. So that led to the decision in this month to reduce the team. But I ran the team in a way that would give us the best opportunity to build as much of the product as possible and ship something this year that could lead to a reversal of revenue in a positive way, revenue flowing in. Um, Given we didn't close the capital, the revenue didn't meet expectations. You all know we've been selling tokens this year as a way to offset cash flows, wanting to reduce the requirement to sell tokens. It was never our desire to go out and sell, but it was a necessity for us to sell 20, 30, $40,000 a day to keep the machine moving. And so, with the reduction, now we don't have to sell tokens in that capacity at all to maintain course. And we've made the appropriate adjustments now, which is when it was appropriate to do so, to form a team that can still build and deliver what we've outlined, just with a smaller spend. So I think there was a lot to all of that, but again, would we scale differently? Yes. I mean, what I would hope going forward is that we have more reliable recurring revenue streams, and we're building those cash flows through things like the marketplace fee structure that we were able to add last year. This is a great passive income stream for us, and other forms and fees that will be included in gameplay mechanics that can then flow flow back into us as a company, as once we have the game product out, it's more justifiable for us to be able to sell Atlas as it comes in revenue from things like ship sales, because we've created the dynamic for the circular economic loop. When Automata was the only sync for Atlas, it was the only place that Atlas could go outside of people selling Atlas themselves. So we as a company absorbed that risk, that volatility risk, and it was an uncomfortable position seeing the decline in the value, but it was also a position that I felt cornered into, and still a decision that I support not to sell that on the market when we were the only place that Atlas earnings could go. We were serving as the token sink, but that will change with gameplay mechanics. So I'm feeling good. We get gameplay mechanics out. We have the token sinks in place. We'll still collect Atlas as a form of revenue, but then that gives us better optionality to strategically sell that over time, which is what our corporate policy needs to be, is consistently selling tokens on a recurring basis as they come into us as well, because of course we as a team need to fund operations. That needs to be in US dollars. We're not in business to speculate on the tokens. We're in business to build a phenomenal gaming product. And so, of course, we will take revenue in Atlas. We will sell that periodically going into the future, but the rest of the economy should be more robust with gameplay.
Yes, sir. Great answer, Michael, as always. And yeah, we are here for the gaming product, of course. Uh, so just before we close, just as a recap, Decrypt posted basically a recap on everything that we have been talking about here with the founders, the co-founders, and Michael, and we posted it on the minor announcements channel. So if you guys want to go and give it a read, just as some kind of recap, you can go there and take a look. But yeah, before we close, anything else, Michael, Danny, Jacob, anything else you guys would like to add?
Oh, well, we want to give, I want to give Danny the floor because he's got some exciting stuff for 2.2, and we're going to talk about some of the features. I actually see some questions rolling in right now about 2.2. So let's spill the beans, man. Let's get them excited because I'm super excited for everything you have scoped out there. And um, again, guys, I just want to caveat, we don't know what the timing on 2.2 is going to be, okay? So just give us a little slack here. We are working as hard as we can. But Danny, why don't you run through some of the features, how it's going to work, and all the cool stuff that you have lined up there?
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, there's been some things that are ongoing internally that we've been kind of holding back a little bit, just to uh, give a nice surprise when the release comes out. But also, I think it'd be nice to share this with everyone so people can understand the vision and the purpose for keeping the UE5 going. So the idea for 2.2 is, and I've been personally calling it preseason 2.2, not necessarily showroom R 2.2, because the idea with preseason is we launch a publicly available game, open access, free to play technically. So you can come in and play it. Nobody has to go through the whole closed access, getting a key to play it anymore. But because that's going to be what it looks like in the Epic Game Store, there are some blockers that I want to put in place to make sure it's a game and not just a cooler tech demo. And what that means is by adding progression. So you take a tech demo, you make it very cool and fun by itself, but that's not what keeps people coming back and staying in there. And so the progression is the important part. And so that's the blocker for this coming out. I've got a number of items in what I'd like to deliver in progression. All of them are mocked up, all of them are designed. There's already some of them being implemented. But we have an MVP version of progression. And this is on-chain progression and on-chain token rewards through progression. Um, and my favorite one that I think covers everything, gives us the fundamental platform and technology, so we can do all the different progression lanes, which is called ship mastery. And it's a system where if you own the ship and you have a ship mastery card, you go through like 10 or so levels, and each of the levels you'll get different um, rewards like weapons, shield generators, engines, epic and rare skins, maybe even charms and posters related to that specific ship. And then by the time you reach level 10, you get a cool legendary skin, which has like some mesh changes and and possibly even some character skins. But the idea is you go through and you master that ship by racing on the ground track, racing on the air track, racing in space track, dogfighting. Say if you kill people on the track during a race, then you get like 10 XP. So you get like fighter XP, but you also get fighter XP specifically for that ship that you're trying to master. And then as you get XP towards that ship, hit the levels, then it's a really nice compartmentalized progression campaign around each ship, and we can release those as new content over time. And so this is kind of the big feature that goes from a tech demo and turns us into a game. I think it also makes us attractive to people just coming off the street, know nothing about Star Atlas, see our listing in Epic Games. We give them a way to jump into the game for free and have a way to progress and get all the way to like hopefully also level up in Racer and Fighter, and at least level up in one of the ship mastery cards and have something to show for it. These are actual on-chain tokens and progression, and so you can, also go and sell them on the marketplace too. So that's part of the whole game. So with that, also we need the robust multiplayer, which Metagravity has already been priced into our Runway. And so their effort is ongoing. They're starting a full co-dev with us now, starting next week, and which is where we start replacing all the current P2P multiplayer stuff that we have. So that's going to be enhanced and robust. We'll also have like a way to release additional maps and additional game modes. So the point of having combat and racing as the first major playable mechanics is because it allows us to make so many more game modes so much faster than this first one. and we can just like test out a bunch of fun, cool things. We did the same thing in Splitgate. We released a ton of different modes. Once you have like shooting and portaling, now it just opens up like, yeah, you can go crazy. And so Metagravity is providing us with the ability to do that easily. Like even an arena shooter where you don't just use handheld guns, you're using a ship, and there's some like battlefield aspects to it. But anyway, so that component, Metagravity multiplayer, the ship mastery progression as an MVP. Hope for a lot more. There's a lot more design. It's pretty cool. And then the ship and crew configurator. So that means like skins and components. So, you know, when you go through the ship mastery and get something like a weapon, you can go and configure your ship, place that weapon on, you know, maybe even progress faster because you have a better gun, and see that immediately. So that's important as well for the release. Also, all the mock-ups are done, all the designs are done. A lot of the gameplay ability systems that are needed is all in place already. And then the last piece needed is the race event scheduler. So that works with our large, potentially 5,000, 30,000 instance where you can go to the race scheduler, and it's basically like a Google Calendar, and you either sign up for the next available race, which is like if there's a countdown, you're starting right now, or just wait 10 minutes for the next race, or you set a race in the future, and then we can even like put sponsored races like anytime in the future. And people can sit there in the main instance where we have the 5,000 plus people and observe these races, and that's all on chain too. So we should, you know, there could be some side things that happen with ongoing races. Just saying, and then also having the private instance or the public instance list of like smaller races on maps. We don't want to make everyone wait to have to progress based on like what's in the queue for the public races. And yeah, that's kind of the overall vision for Unreal. And relating that back to the downsizing of the team, as I mentioned earlier, we still have quite a number of people in contractor and vendor positions, and there's individual arrangements with each one of them that we're going to find out probably this week how that extends out. But even if that were to be the case, if we were able to keep a large section of that, then we're still looking at pretty good chances for the end of this year release. If we lose more than we think, then possibly Q1 2024. And there's also a strategic decision on when you go public. You know, do we want to compete with all the other Christmas games that are coming out at the same time? So that's going to factor in, of course, which gives us more time to promote and really time that, because it's a public release. It's important. I know we all know so much about the product, but you have that one moment to really shine when you go public. And before that, you know, community first, of course, there will be beta periods, and you guys will still be able to check things out in a closed access way. So yeah, that kind of covers it, I think.
Nice, man. That was a lot. That was a lot. I'm really looking forward to what Brad and the team have been doing with the gameplay ability system. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it.
Best guy for the job to give that update. Thanks, Danny. I wanted to mention two more things. One, I don't know if we were able to pull the image of the Sage Labs, but it would be cool to show that before we close here. And I wanted to add one more thing. Or Jacob, did you want to say something?
We're working on it now, getting the screenshot.
Okay. Cool. Well, let me ramble on for a minute then while we finalize that. But we've been able to, we've had a good relationship with, and more recently have been able to work with the team at Laddercaster on the next version of our StarPath referral system. Really amazing guys. Laddercaster, you guys probably played their game, but they were pioneers in on-chain gaming on Solana, and but they have a program that they call BuddyLink. And again, this is a referral system fully on-chain. And so we are looking now at the integration of BuddyLink into into Star Atlas that again, as a referral system, we have a much more aggressive proposed reward structure for that that would include 30% revenue share on primary market asset sales, as well as 30% on the secondary marketplace fees. Now, I'm sure you all understand we can't go out of pocket on secondary transactions. However, there is a 4% transaction fee that we collect as a company. And so even if somebody you refer buys on the secondary market against from another player, you would get 30% of that 4%. That's the way we're thinking about it now. But as the inventory below origination price gets absorbed, and primary market sales take place, you would also get 30% of that total amount of a primary market purchase, which is pretty significant. Simple example, somebody buys a $10,000 ship, you get $3,000 for referring that person. But in addition to that, why I wanted to bring it up is that we're also going to add a component of the golden ticket rewards to this as well. So golden tickets, that's the raffle system. You can craft these golden tickets, but if you're referring people and they're making purchases, then you'd also, not only would you get the revenue share component, but you'd also get a golden ticket. So then you can go in and participate in the raffle and maybe score yourself a $100,000 tank ship. So I'm super excited about that. This is largely an external effort by the Laddercaster team. So big credit and kudos to Aiden and Calvin over there, and the rest of their team. But we're looking to have that online, the new Star Path. Again, with a little caveat, not being fully integrated into the Star Atlas profile system, but largely utilizing a link out system. So you're registering through us, but accessing the rewards and whatnot through their platform. But nevertheless, having that online in time for the release of Sage Labs. So coupling it again, I think we've got a lot coming. Not only is the game coming online, the economic simulation being activated, play to earn being activated, referral system coming online, as well as outreach to a bunch of guilds that aren't currently active in Star Atlas, all hoping to come in and play with these new economic loops. So if you can't tell, I'm extremely excited about August. Again, it was a challenging month for us in having to release some great people from our team, but nevertheless, I think the future is extremely bright.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I like how today, Marco, you just decided to leak everything, man.
That's what the
You
people
didn't
wanted.
you didn't hold back.
Did not hold back.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I have anything left to leak, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. I know. But yeah, so I think this was all. We went for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I think we covered most, if not all, the questions. But we will still be in the chat as always, replying to any questions that come in. Uh, but yeah, anything, just making sure, double checking anything before we close. Michael, did you remember any alpha leaks that you would like to share?
I think the last thing is just that image. If we don't have it ready now, that's okay. We'll post it later today. We don't have to showcase it right at the moment, but
I DM'd it to Dom, so he has it
Cool.
very secretively.
all right. Well, I want to see the reaction though. So
Okay, Dom, I think that's ship it, your ship it order. So uncomfortable silence.
We're getting the 17 seconds of uncomfortable silence. Nah, I just put it in sneak peeks.
Cool. Okay, posted on sneak peeks. I really like the retro style.
It's again not intended to be necessarily visually appealing, but going to be very economically appealing. That's for sure.
Awesome.
So I know we've been running over, but I just want to say, like, it's super cool. Your wallet connects to this. You go in and you spawn your fleet. You can still select destinations that you want to go to. When you move from your central space station to an asteroid, that's an on-chain movement. You can start extracting, choose the resource you want to mine. You still have all of the inventory capacity on your ship, so then you move it back to a starbase at another location, all on chain. You start the crafting process. All of the economic outputs are available to you. So again, it is the game. This is the game. And I mentioned this earlier on the call with the team, but there's a really great podcast out there called Gamecraft. It's an 8 episode series right now. But one of the things that they talk about in the first episode is EVE Online, and like EVE Online is a wildly successful game, as we know. They defined EVE Online as 80% economic simulation, and it's all just wrapped in this idea of exploring space. But like people love EVE because it's the spreadsheets and the trade and the resource balancing, and that's what we're delivering. We're delivering EVE Online through Sage Labs right now. It's full economic simulation available to you now. So yeah, we want you to have the 3D environment. It's like it's more fun. We know it's more entertaining when you can put yourself out in space. But what we're going to do is release some other video content with the Sage environment itself, the Play Canvas environment, so you can at least imagine and visualize what actions you're taking would look like in that enhanced UI version of this. But I think it's so powerful to activate the economy right now, and that's what we wanted to get out. So very excited about what's coming, and we've got a couple of weeks, and we'll have it out.
Yeah, and for anyone with economic related questions, please feel free to tag Chris, like in the chat, in the economics chat. Chris is gonna be there all day, like just waiting to shoot the cheese analogies, So make sure to go to the economics chat and just tag him. Good luck, Chris. Love you, man.
He's got his hands full. I don't know what he signed himself up for, but I know he drinks a lot of coffee,
Yeah,
and I know
yeah.
he's terrible with metaphors. That's all I know.
Awesome. So I
Uh,
think this is a good moment to close. I asked this like 3 times, so Michael, anything else before we close?
yeah, I was just well, Dom beat me to the punch, but I was just gonna say, hopefully we sliced up enough cheese. In Chris's words, we sliced up enough cheese for the mice to come and play, something like that. But thanks, Santi, for hosting, Dom, for helping us out with sharing content, Jacob, Danny, as always. Thanks for listening in, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you in the
Mhm.
next Stone Hall next Wednesday in the Atlas Brew, as always. So yeah, we'll stay in touch, my friends, and see you in the chat as well. We'll continue to reply to questions that come in. So see you next time. Ciao,
Take
ciao.
care. Bye.